Have you ever wondered how much of you is actually you and how much is your false ego? We're diving into the idea of the false ego today. It's a concept that may not be familiar to everyone, but it's a vital one to grasp. The false ego is like a mask we wear, often without realizing it. It's the part of us that wants to fit in, to be admired, to be seen as something more than what we truly are. It can cloud our judgment and often leads us to make decisions that aren't in line with our authentic selves. It's like a foggy mirror, distorting our view of who we really are and what we truly want. The false ego is a master of disguise, adept at convincing us that the image it presents is our true self. But beneath this facade, we are so much more. We are beings of unconditioned consciousness, spirit souls, if you will. Let's delve deeper into understanding this concept through a story. Imagine yourself as a traveler lost in a dense forest. Picture this. You're in the heart of a vast and wild forest, the canopy overhead blocking out the sun, casting a dappled light that dances and deceives. You're alone. You've been wandering for what feels like an eternity, and you're unsure of the path you've taken. This is where our story begins. Our traveler is not unlike any one of us. He's determined, he's intelligent, and he's guided by something we all possess: his ego. He believes that his intellect, his knowledge of the world, will guide him out of this wilderness. This ego, this sense of self that he holds onto, is what we refer to as the nafs, or the false ego. It's a construct of our mind, a shield we build around ourselves to navigate the world. But let's see where it leads our traveler. As he ventures deeper into the forest, his ego convinces him that he's making the right choices. It tells him that he knows the way, that he's read about forests, about the paths and the landmarks. It whispers reassurances, echoing in his mind, drowning out the subtle signs of nature around him. The rustle of leaves in a certain direction, the soft murmur of a stream nearby, the call of a bird from a distance. He dismisses these, focusing instead on the path his ego charts for him. However, the forest is not a logic puzzle to be solved. It is a living, breathing entity, full of mysteries and secrets that don't yield to human arrogance. So with every step he takes, convinced of his direction, he only gets more entangled in the labyrinth of trees and vines. This, my dear listeners, is the power of the nafs, the false ego. It's persuasive, it's loud, and it's often wrong. It convinces us that we know best, that our perception of the world is the absolute truth. It makes us dismiss the wisdom of our hearts, the silent whispers of the universe, guiding us towards the right path. Our traveler, under the spell of his nafs, continues to wander. The forest grows denser, the path more convoluted. He's weary and disoriented, but his ego persists, promising him that salvation is just around the corner. The traveler is still lost, his ego convincing him that he is going in the right direction. And so we leave our traveler for now, lost in the forest of his own making, a prisoner to his false ego. But remember, the story doesn't end here. There's more to learn, more to explore, so stay with us as we delve deeper into this journey of self-discovery and spiritual awakening. Suddenly, the traveler stumbles upon a clear, serene lake. As he peers into the calm waters, he sees not just his physical reflection, but an echo of his inner self. His heart stirs as he recognizes the unfamiliar face staring back at him. It's a face molded by the hands of ego, a face that has been the mask he wore for so long. He begins to question this reflection. He wonders, is this truly who I am? Or is this merely a shadow, an illusion of who I think I am? He realizes that he has been following not his true self, but a false ego, a deceptive guide that has led him astray. His heart, which was once a silent whisper, now begins to echo louder within him. It calls out to him amidst the quietness of the lake, urging him to listen, to understand, to follow its rhythm. The traveler, bewildered and curious, decides to heed this call. He begins to question his ego, to challenge it. He asks, "Why have you led me down a path of confusion and sorrow? Why have you kept me bound to material desires?" The ego, silent and unresponsive, offers no answers. The traveler makes a profound decision. He decides to silence the ego, to quiet its incessant chatter. He decides to follow his heart, to let it lead the way. He begins to feel a shift within him, a transformation. With renewed determination, the traveler decides to follow his heart. This is not a journey of footsteps on a beaten track, but a voyage of the heart, guided by its soft whispers, its gentle nudges, its firm assertions. Think of the traveler as he ventures deeper into the forest of his existence. The trees of doubt tower over him, casting long shadows. Yet he is undeterred, for he knows that shadows can only exist when there is light. As he continues, he starts to recognize the voice of his heart, distinct from the clamoring of his ego. The heart's voice is soft, but clear, like a lighthouse beacon cutting through the fog of confusion and self-doubt. He learns to discern between the voice of his heart, the true self, and the voice of his nafs, his false ego. The ego, he realizes, had been shouting loudly, drowning the heart's quiet whispers. The ego, the master of illusion, had been masquerading as the truth. But now he sees through its deception. He understands that the ego's voice is not his own, but a cacophony of outside influences, fears and desires. And so the traveler learns to quieten the ego, to listen, to understand, and to follow the heart. He learns to trust the heart's wisdom, to let it guide his steps, his thoughts, his actions. He learns that the heart is his compass, his map, his guide. With this realization, he begins to loosen the grip of his ego. He finds the courage to challenge his ego, to question its authority, to dispute its claims. He is no longer a slave to his ego, but a master of his heart. With each step, he feels lighter, freer, closer to the truth. The forest that once seemed dense and impenetrable now appears clear and welcoming. He sees the path he had been searching for, illuminated by the light of his heart. The traveler, having overcome his false ego, finally finds his way out. He emerges from the forest, stepping into the light of truth, guided by the wisdom of his heart, ready to embrace the boundless possibilities that await. As he steps out of the forest and into the sunlight, the traveler reflects on his journey. He's come a long way, hasn't he? From being lost in the dense woods of false ego, to finding his way out by the beacon of his heart. A beautiful transformation indeed. This journey, as we've seen, is not about the miles traversed, but the lessons learned. It's about understanding the false ego, our nafs, and how it keeps us shackled in the chains of material desires. It's about recognizing this pretender for what it truly is, the root cause of our sorrow. The traveler learned that the nafs is not his true self. It's a mask, a facade, a grand illusion that veils our true essence. And what lies beneath this veil? The spirit soul, the core of our being, the essence of unconditioned consciousness. But how does one lift this veil? How does one overcome the nafs? The traveler discovered the answer, not through the mind, but through the heart. The heart, as he found, is the compass that points towards the truth. It's the guide that leads us out of the forest of false ego and into the light of self-knowledge. By following his heart, the traveler was able to meet, challenge, and ultimately prevail over his nafs. He realized that the heart's wisdom is the key to overcoming the false ego, to breaking free from the bonds of material desires, to shedding the layers of illusion. And what did he find at the end of this journey? Knowledge of himself, knowledge of his true, unconditioned consciousness, knowledge that he is not the nafs, but the spirit soul. The traveler's journey is a testament to the power of the heart. It's a reminder that our journey towards the truth is not a mental exercise, but a labor of love, a labor of the heart. In the end, it becomes clear that the journey to the truth is not a labor of the head, but of the heart.